Hi guys, it's Ms. Berg again. I am just going to go over your mid-chapter checkpoint and your end of the chapter review of chapter 3 right now. So that is what I'm planning on doing because I do want you guys to have a test. Now, with the test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably upload the test, especially if you're online, and you guys can just do it on a separate sheet of paper, or I could get copies for you if that's easier and just lay them outside on the foyer, in the foyer, before you walk into the office to be picked up. And you guys could do it on paper and put it in the drop-off box, or you guys could also just do it online, and just put it on a piece of paper and just give me that paper so I can just give me pictures of that paper so I can actually grade everyone. Just make sure that if you do that, to make sure to write down each number on the test. So if it's number 1, make sure you put 1 and then do the problem so I can follow you. So that would probably be what I would do, so that you guys can at least get some type of a test in. So that would be for chapter 3's test. So that's what I'm planning on doing next week. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over your chapter checkpoint and your review, which is definitely going to be just like your test. It's just going to be different questions. So it's very important that you are paying attention and that you are doing and following along with me so that it makes sense to you. So I'm going to be flipping it around. And this is on page 187, so you can follow along with me on that. So I am not going to be doing this first part, but I am going to do this starting on number 2. So it says that 400ths is, now remember, is means equals a tenth of what? So in this case, again, they gave us the answer. So we have to find one of the factors. So in order to do this, we are actually going to be working backwards. And how we work backwards is you just rewrite that number, but now instead of doing what is saying here, which is dividing by 10, you're actually going to be multiplying by 10 to equal that unknown number. So we're going to be working backwards here. So when we are multiplying by 10, you are making it larger. So remember, when you are making it larger, you are going to be moving their decimal outward. So if I move it in outward one place, that would be 0 and 4/10. So what you could do is then you can go back into the problem and make sure it makes sense. So if you are at 4/10 and you make it smaller by a place, you should be getting 400. So if you're making it smaller, you're pushing it out one, pushing it in toward the front, and therefore, yes, that is true. It would have been 4 cents versus only 40 cents. So yes, this is true. It should have been 4/10 there. Next, this one is saying 600ths is, which means equals 10 times as much as blank. Well, again, they gave us the answer and we have to find out what the factor is. So in this particular case, we are again going to have to work backwards. So again, how we work backwards, you start with that number again, but instead of doing timesing by 10, you're going to do the opposite, which is dividing by 10. Remember, this fraction bar is also a division bar, so it's also telling you to divide by 10 to equal our unknown number. So it's saying to take this number and then make it smaller by a place. So to make it smaller, remember when you're making it smaller, you're going to be pushing your decimal toward the inside. So now it is actually saying 6 thousandths. So how you can check this is if you say, okay, if you're at 6 thousandths and then you're making it bigger by a place, you should get 600. So again, if you want it to be bigger, you're going to be pushing it inward, and that would be 600. So yes, this is true as 6 thousandths. All right, next it's saying to write the value of that underlined digit. So this is what we're going to be doing. Here, you just find the ones place, which is always the one before the decimal, and you add on zeros. That 4 is in the hundredths. So there's actually two different ways you could say that. You could say 4 hundredths, or you could have said the actual decimal, which is 4 in the hundredths place. This one, if you find the ones place, which is always before the decimal, that 8 is in the tenths. So you could have wrote out 8 tenths, or you could have wrote out the decimal, which was a 0 decimal and then an 8. Here, if you find the ones place again and you add on zeros, that is a 2 in the thousandths. Remember to put THS at the end, otherwise it is technically wrong. So make sure you always put that in there. And then if you want to put the decimal down, everything before it will be zeros. So 0, decimal, the 7 is now a 0, the 0 still remain a 0, and then the 2. And then this one, what is that worth? It is just worth 9. And then if you want the decimal, you could have just said 9 or 9 and 0 tenths, still the same thing. All right, now this one, they wanted you to compare decimals. Remember, when it comes to comparing decimals, it is very important that you always line up the decimals. So I am just simply lining up the decimals. And so they're all lined up. Now, do I need anything as placeholders? Yes, I do. So then the 6s are all the same, the 5s are the same, the 2s are the same, and the 0s are the same. So therefore, these are equal to each other. Next, again, I'm going to line up the decimals. So now that they're lined up, now I'm going to be looking at the largest one, which is the ones place, and they're both the same. The tenths are the same, but the hundredths are different. So the one that is larger is the 9. So therefore, I want that one. So Miss Pac-Man or Mr. Pac-Man mouth needs to be toward that one. So this is your less than symbol. All right, and then this one, again, you should be lining up the decimal. And then looking at the largest, which is the ones, and they're both the same. The tenths are the same, but the hundredths are different. So which one is larger would be the 8. So therefore, Mr. Pac-Man or your alligator's mouth needs to be facing that way. So this is the greater than symbol. All right, the next thing it says, now write the place value of the underlined digit and then round each place value to the underlined digit. So here we go. On this one, it is very important that you are remembering how to do this. So if you remember way back in chapter 4, 3.4, it does state, I did make you guys write down some notes, always look at the digit to the right of the place to round to determine whether it goes up or down. So oh, sorry, goes up or stays the same. So in this case, this was the underlying digit. It is always the one behind it that you run through this rhyme of 0 through 4 stays on the floor, and 5 through 9 goes up one more. So keep that in mind. So now that I'm going to be going over that, here we go. So in this case, the place value of the underlying digit, if you find your ones and you add on zeros, that is your tenths. So this is your tenths place. And now what you could do is you could just put a line there to remind you, okay, this is the only one that I'm worried about. I'm worried about whether this one goes up or stays the same. And the thing that determines it is this number. The 2 is found through the 0 through 4, which tells that number to stay the same. So therefore, that 7 is going to stay the same, and everything before it will remain the same as well. And everything after will just drop off because it is after the decimal. All right, here's the next one. The place value of this is your ones place, or you could have said whole number. So I would say or whole number. Either of those two would have been accepted. So here, what you do, again, if you want to rewrite it, again, this is the one that we care about. So if you want to draw a line so you don't look at everything else, you may. What determines whether that one goes up or stays the same? It is the one behind it. That 5 is found in 5 through 9. So therefore, it's going to tell this 2 to go up one more. So if it's a 2 and it goes up one more, it will now just be a 3. So just put a 3 there. Don't worry about putting zeros after the fact, because then it makes it, if I add on a 0, it makes it look like I just rounded to the tenths place, which I don't want to round to the tenths. I want to round to the ones place. All right, next. If you find your ones and you add on zeros, it is telling you that that is in the hundredths. Make sure you put THS at the end. So then again, if you want, you can put like a little line here. So what determines whether that goes up or stays the same is the one behind it. The 9 is found through 0 through 5, so it tells it to go up one more. So it's going to tell that 6 to go up one more, which is now a 7. Everything before that number will stay the same, and everything after it will just drop off. And that is how you do those ones. Now this one says draw a quick picture. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show the quick picture. Some people like this. You should do it because I'm probably going to make you do that on your homework, on your test as well, on some of them. So I do want to know that you know how to do that. Remember the one in the holes, the block is going to tell you how many holes there are. This is your tenths, so it's going to be a long. So each long is going to represent this. And then a little circle is going to represent the hundredths. So in this case, how many holes are there? There are 2. So we're going to put down 2 blocks. Then how many longs? There are going to be 4. And then how many circles? There will be 6. All right, then you come over here and then you look at this one. Again, this is blocks, longs, and then your circles. So in this case, how many holes are there? There are none. How many longs? There are 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then how many hundredths? There are 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then you can just make sure you bring down your decimal so you don't forget it. And then you can just follow along here. So 8 plus 6 is 14. So that means you have enough to regroup. Remember, in order to regroup, you need 10. So I'm going to take 10 of these, and then I'm going to regroup them to another long. So then what is left over is my 4. So you can show that as a 4 for 14, and then you carry your 1 over to the next side. Now there are 5 plus 7, which again is more than enough to regroup. So in this case, I would take, that would be 12. So therefore, I'm going to regroup 10 of them. And then I'm going to cross it out and then regroup it to another whole. So then what was left here is 2. So here I'm going to show that it was 12, carry your 1. And now it's showing you, hey, I got 3 wholes. So therefore your answer is 3 24/100. All right, now this one, the only one that you will be modeling is the top number, because that is all you have, but please make sure you are showing all your work still. So bring down your decimal. Again, I'm only going to model this top one because you only have $3.27. You do not have anything else that you're going to add to it. You're actually going to take away from that $3.27. So I'm just going to model this first number, which is 3 wholes, and then 2 longs, and then 7/100. All right, so this is what I have. Now it says what I'm going to take away from the 7/100 is 4. So can I do that? Yes, I can. And what is left is just 3. So I can just show that. Now it says I have 2 longs and I need to take away 8. Can I do that? No, I cannot. I do not have enough to take away 8. So what I have to do is I have to come over and borrow from one of my holes. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these holes and I'm going to break them up into 10 longs, because 10 longs make up a hole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I have 10 plus that 2. So that's 12 now. Now I'm going to be able to take away 8, and I can now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 8. So I'll take away 2, 4, 6, 7, and an 8. And what is left is 4. And then I'm going to come over to my holes. And then it says I have 2. And now I need to take away 1, which I can do. And that would be 1 remaining. So therefore, my answer to this one is 1 43/100. All right, next. What this one is it says Marco read the honeybee can fly up to 2 and 548 thousandths meters per second. He rounded that number to 2 and 55/100. Which place value did he round the speed of a honeybee to? So what it's saying is that this was the original number, but then what he did was he rounded it and it came to this number. So they want to know what place value did he round it to? Well, all you need to do is look at the rounded number, because this is your answer. Find the ones, add on zeros, so that 5 is in the hundredths place. So therefore, it was rounded to the hundredths place. Make sure you put THS at the end. All right, next, what is the relationship between 4/100ths and 4/1000ths? So what I'm going to do is I think it's so much easier if you just line up the decimals, and it makes more sense if you line up the decimals. So that is what I'm going to be doing here. So this one, it needs a placeholder. So I do know that if you were comparing these, that 400ths is actually larger, or you can think of it as 40 thousandths compared to 4 thousandths. So therefore, if you want to look at this, 4 thousandths is actually smaller by a place, or you can also think of it as 400ths is bigger by just one place to the 4 thousandths. And remember, each place is 10 times bigger. So in this case, since it's just one place, 400ths is 10 times larger than 4 thousandths. All right, so now this one says, Jody drew a quick picture to model the answer of this. Draw a picture, draw what her picture might look like. All right, so again, just because I might have you do this on your test, I need you guys to understand how to do this. So again, the only thing that you are going to be modeling is this first number when it comes to subtraction, because this is all you have. And then you're going to subtract it away. So you won't get anything that is larger by any means. So therefore, how I'm going to show that is it's 3 wholes, 1 long, and 4 hundredths. So now you can look by actually doing it over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my 4 hundredths. And it says to take away 5. Do I have enough to take away 5? And no, I do not. So in this case, I'm going to have to go over to my neighbor, which is my 1 whole 10, the 10th, and I'm going to break it up into circles. Now remember, a long is worth 10 of these. So I'm going to break it up. And now I'm going to give me 10 more of these. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then plus your 4 that's up here. So now you're going to have 14. And now you're going to have 0 of these longs now. So now can I take away 5? Yes, I can. So now I'm going to take away 5, 2, 4, and 5. So what are you left with? You are left with 9. Then if you look at your wholes, your longs, there are 0. Can you take away 7? No, you cannot. So therefore, you're going to have to come over to your neighbor and you're going to borrow one of these. Now remember how many tenths are in here. There are 10 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now this is going to now be 10. Now can I give up 7? I sure can. So there's 5, 6, and 7. So what is left is 3. So now this is 3. And now you look here, I have 2. I need to get rid of 1. So that would be 1 whole left. So therefore my answer would have been 1 and 39 hundredths. And this is what my picture would have looked like. All right, now it says the average annual rainfall for California is 564 thousandths of a meter per year. What is the value of the digit 4 in that number? So all I need to worry about is that digit 4. So again, if I know where my ones place, it can help me out by a lot. So my ones place is always before my decimal, always, always, it never changes. So then if you add on zeros underneath, that 4 is saying it's in the thousandths. So therefore you could have wrote out 4 thousandths. You could have also have wrote out 4 times 1 over 1,000. Or you could have wrote out the decimal, 0.004. So you could have said one of these. There were several things that you could have said. So those are one of the 3 things that you could have said to make that one true. Next, it said Jan ran 1 in 256 thousandths miles on Monday, 1 in 265 thousandths miles on Wednesday, and 1 in 268 thousandths miles on Friday. What was her distances from greatest to least? So they're saying the distances. We have to be naming the numbers from greatest to least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first line up my decimals so I can compare. So please line up your decimals when you're comparing numbers. It makes for a lot easier. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking at the largest one, which is our ones, and they're all the same. Then I'm going to go to my tenths, which are all the same. Then I'm going to go to my thousandths, which is not the same. So now what I could take from this is my smallest, because it said greatest to least. So therefore my smallest needs to be listed last. So therefore I can automatically say, oh, the one with the 5 is the smallest of those two. So then you can also next look at your next smallest, or you can look at your biggest first. It just depends on how you want to look at it. So now you can look at the thousandths place. The 8 is the largest, and then the 5 is the next largest. So therefore, because this one, the 8 is the greatest one, so I'm going to write that one next, very first, and then this one will be my middle one. And that is how you do that, going from greatest to least. All right, now I'm going to go to the end of the chapter, which ends on page 225. And now I'm going to be going over this. Now, guys, this is very, very much like your test questions. The only difference is going to be changing up the numbers. And maybe a little bit of the wording or something like that, but it's going to be something exactly like this. So it is very important that you are paying attention right now. So it says Chaz kept a record of how many gallons of gas he purchased each day last week. So here is the amount of gas in gallons, and this is the days. Now it says order the days. So it's saying order the days from least amount of gas purchased to greatest. So least to greatest. So we're not going to put down the numbers because that is not our days. So be very careful of that as well. So when you are going to be doing this, I always tell my students to line up the decimals. And that is going to be no exception to this rule. You should always line up the decimals to compare. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Lining up all my decimals. So here it is. And then do you see that there are some spots that are empty? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill them in with placeholders, because it is so much easier to understand the numbers when there are placeholders. All right, so now it says, again, we're going least to greatest. So we're going to look at the smallest one first. So here, out of here, we have 2 of the ones that are smallest. So it is between these 2 3s. So now in order to break the tie, I'm going to go to the next place value, which is the tenths. So now it is 7 versus a 9. Well, 7 is definitely the smallest. So which day was that? It was Thursday. So Thursday is definitely the smallest. So now that is done. And then the next smallest is this other one, where if you followed the day, it's saying Tuesday. And now you are done with the 3s. So now we're going to go on to the 4s. So now you look at the 4s, and then you can go, they're all the same. So that's not telling us anything. Oh, look, there's a 5, a 2, and a 2. Well, I automatically know that this is the largest amount. So therefore, I'm going to put that one here at the very largest, which was Monday. So Monday, I can already tell is the largest. So now I can cross that out. And now I'm going to keep on continuing to go. These tell me the same. The hundredths are the same. Oh, now the thousandths are going to break the tie. The thousandths, the one that is the smallest out of these two, is definitely this one. So if I follow it, that is Friday. So this is the smallest, because remember, we're going least to greatest. So that is our smallest between the two. And then this is the one that will be right here, which is Wednesday. And that is how you do those. All right, next it says to see if this is a true or false statement. So they're giving you this number and it says rounded to the nearest whole should come out to be 16 still. So let's go ahead and go over that. I'm going to write this number down and we're going to see rounded to the nearest whole number. So remember, everything before the decimal is your whole number. So what determines it is always the one after. So the 4 is the one that you run through 0 through 4, stays on the floor. 5 through 9 goes up one more. So this is the one that we put into this poem. The 4 is found through 0 through 4, so it's going to tell this 16 to stay a 16. There is no going down, by the way. The only options are either the number is going to stay or it's going to go up one more. So therefore, it's going to stay a 16. So therefore, it's saying it should be a 16, and this is a true statement. Next, they're saying, okay, now take this number and now round it to the nearest tenth. A lot of people were not quite right on where the tenths were because they all started, this place is saying that this is the ones place, and that is not true. The ones place is always the one before the decimal. That will never ever change. So always find the decimal, and the one before it is always your ones place. So if I want to find my tenths, I am just going to add on one more 0 so that it is saying the tenths. So this is the one I need to go to. So if you want to put like a little line there so that you look at nothing except for this part, the thing that determines it and the thing that you run into that poem is that 3 after. So I'm going to now put that 3 into this poem. So 3 is found in 0 through 4. That's where it's found. So it's going to tell it to stay the same. So therefore, this 4 is going to stay the same. And then everything before it stays as well. So they're saying that it should come out to be 16 4/10. And this is also a true statement. Next, they're saying to now take this same number, and now we are going to round it to the nearest hundredth. Again, find the ones place, which is the one always before the decimal, add on zeros. So this is your hundredths place. What determines this is the one behind it. So the 7, now you're going to run that 7 into this. 7 is not found through 0 through 4, it's found through 5 through 9. So it's going to tell it to go up one more. So it's going to tell this 3 to go up one more. A 3 up one more is a 4, and then everything before that stays the same. So this is your rounded number is 16 44/100, and it's telling us it should have been 16 43/100, which is false. So this is a false statement. All right, now I am not going to be doing number 3, and so on your test as well, this is one that you would cross out as well. So I am not going to do that one. Then we're going to go over to number 4. Number 4 says, what is the value of the underlying digit? And it says mark all that apply. So it needs to be you need to be very, very careful because you want to mark everything that applies to that. So first of all, what I always tell my students is to find the ones place. So the ones place is always before the decimal. And if you add on zeros, it's saying the 6 is in the tenths place. So if you were to make a decimal this is very much true because the 6 will still be there, a decimal, and then a 0. So that is the decimal way to say that. So this is true. This one is not true because it's actually showing a 6 in the hundredths, which is not what we want. Here, this one is saying it's 6/10, and this is true because that is just the word form of saying that. And then next one is saying 600ths. This is not true because it is not in the hundredths. But then they're saying that you could also write it 6 times 1/10. And this is very much true. That is the expanded form of writing that. All right, next. It says Rwanda jogged 2 1400 kilometers farther. So she ran farther than Terence. Select the values that could represent how far each student jogged. Mark all that apply. So it is very possible that more than one of these is true. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go on here. So this one is saying that she is going farther than him. So now in order to find out the distance between them, we would have to subtract to find out what the difference is. So again, when you're subtracting, make sure you line up the decimals. And then make sure you have a whole, a placeholder. Bring down your decimal. Can you have 0 and take away 6? And no, you cannot. So you have to come over and borrow. This is now going to be a 4. This is going to be a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then 6 minus 4 is 2. So therefore, this is what it wants. So therefore, this is a true statement that could have been those numbers. Next, it is again saying that she is running farther than he did. So now in order to find out the numbers exactly, we are going to have to line them up. All right, so here we go. Put a 0 here, bring down your decimal. Can 0 minus 6? You cannot do that, so you have to come over and borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. 7 minus 7 is 0, and 4 minus 2 is 2. And this is not the same. So therefore, this cannot happen. Then looking here, oh, this one is actually saying that Terence actually went farther than Rwanda, which is not true. So therefore, this is automatically false. We don't even have to go any farther. Then here, this one is saying that she did go farther. So in order to see the difference between the two, we are going to subtract. How you subtract is make sure the decimals are lined up and bring in any placeholders. So 4 minus 0 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 7 minus 5 is 2. So therefore, this was another true statement because it did make it to there. So when you are doing this on your test, I do want to see this kind of work. I don't want just the answers. This is the type of work I want to see because I want to see that you're borrowing correctly. I want to see all that. So please make sure that you are doing that, especially on the test. I will be looking for that. Next, shade the model to show this decimal. All right, guys, so remember this is like your wholes, and then this is your long, and this is your how many of each of these, and then this is actually going to tell you your thousandths over here. So there are no whole things going to be shaded here. Now, if you look, there are 5 longs. So, or if you want to look at this as well, you can also look at it at a bigger picture. There's actually 54 out of 100 that should be shaded, and each one of these is 1 out of 100. So therefore, I should have 54 out of these 100 shaded. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to grab a highlighter. I think a highlighter shows up a little better, but obviously you would just be doing it on your pencils. So that is 10. Here's 20. Here's 30, 40, 50, and then we need 54. So that would be 51, 52, 53, and 54. So that is what you are doing. And then over here, it tells you your thousandths. So if you looked over there, your thousandths should have been 2. So how you would do that is you would just say, okay, then if I magnified this part, that next number, it is showing that 2 of these should be shaded. And then this is showing 542 thousandths is how that is showing. So what I would do is I would just break up how many hundredths first, which was 54. So that's why I had 54. And then this is your thousands, which is only 2 of them are shaded. And that is how you do that. All right, this one, it says Benjamin rode his bike 2 6/10 miles on Saturday and 2 85/100 miles on Sunday. How many miles did he ride Saturday and Sunday combined? Use the digits on the tiles to solve the problem. So the digits may be used more than once or not at all. So if this was an online thing, you would just be taking these tiles and just putting them into its places. In this case, since we do not have that, I'm just going to be writing them in. So Saturday and Sunday combined. So we're actually going to combine these. So it doesn't matter which one is first because of the commutative property. So I'm going to put up what was listed first. Just make sure that you line up the decimals is the most important part of this. And then this has nothing here, so you should put a 0 as a placeholder. The decimals already brought down for you. So now we just add 5 plus 0 is 5. 8 plus 6 is 14. So a 4, carry your 1. Now you have 4 plus 4, which is 8. So it'll be 8 45/100. All right, next. Here it says the school is 3 65/100 miles from Tanya's house and 1 28/100 miles from Jamal's house. How much farther from the school? How much farther from the school is Tanya's house than Jamal's house? So from the school, it is this much away from Tanya's and then this much from Jamal's. So in order to find out how much farther it is away from Tanya's than Jamal's, you would have to find the difference in between. So here we go. In order to do that, you are going to find the difference between these. So you would line up the decimals. So here it is. Now, some people may not quite understand this, so I'm just going to say that this is S for school. So from the school, Tanya's house is way out here. I'm going to say this is Tanya's house, and that distance is 3 65/100 miles. And then from the school, it is only 1, like right around here, it's only 1 28/100 miles from Jamal's house. So they want to know how much further is Tanya's house than Jamal's house. So in order to do this, you are actually going to have to find the difference between these two, figure out what this space is. So in other words, you're going to subtract those two to figure out what is that missing difference right here. So here we go. So this, we would have to bring down our decimal. Can I have 5 and take away 8? No, I cannot. So I have to come over and borrow. This is a 5. So 15 minus 8 is 7. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then 3 minus 1 is 2. So therefore your answer is 2 37/100 miles. All right, so then you are going to be crossing out 9 because it's saying estimation. I am not going to make you do 10, so you can cross that out. Just the one thing I did like about this is that it's kind of telling you stuff that we're going to be doing in chapter 4. So it says Rick bought 5 yogurt bars at a snack shop. Each yogurt bar cost $1.75. How much would, 2 bars cost, 3 bars, 4 bars, and 5 bars? Well, I'm just going to skip right down to the 5 by multiplying it by 5. So all you would do here, again, you're not going to have this on your test. It's just a good review. You find the decimals, and then you see how many numbers are after the decimals. There's only 2, a total of 2. So remember, we have to move in our decimal twice after this. So 5 times 5 is 25, carry your 2. Then 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37. Then 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. And then that doesn't make any sense. That would be $875 for only 5 yogurt bars, because we need to make sure we bring in our decimal from the back twice. So therefore, my answer should have been $8.75. All right, now this one says Clayton Road is 2 2/25 miles long, and Woodpike Road is 1 800 miles long. Keisha used the quick picture to find the combined length of both of these roads. Does Keisha's work make sense, and explain why or why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see, oh, here's 2, and then 2 holes, and then 2 longs, and then 500. So this is the one that is showing me 2 2/25. Then this one should be showing me my other one, 1 8 longs, 1 8/10. So I'm going to line up the decimals and then showing the 0 hundredths. So now what I'm going to do, we're going to find a combined length. That means they want to see the total amount. So I'm going to be adding this, and then we're going to see whether this makes sense or not. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring down my decimal. And then I'm going to just go ahead and add to see if this makes sense. So 5 plus 0 is 5. So is this showing that? Yeah, it's showing me just 5 is here. Then if I look over here, it's saying 8 plus 2 is 10. So they are saying there will end up being 0. And that's what they did. They went and they circled this, and then they made it another hole. So actually, it did exactly what it should have done, meaning that this would be, none would be left. And then how many holes would there be? There would be 4. And is this showing 4 holes now? Yes, it is. So therefore, was this, did this work make sense? And you would say yes. She regrouped the 10/10 or 10 longs to another hole. Okay, so that is how you do those. All right, now we're going to go over to the next page. This is the next page. You are going to be not doing number 12, so you can cross that part out. However, we are going to go over 13 and 14. So here we go. Raphael bought 2 1/1500 pounds of potato salad and 4 2/10 pounds of macaroni salad to bring to a picnic. You are going to select whether it was a yes or a no on whether the statement is true or not. So it says round the nearest whole number. Raphael bought 2 pounds of potato salad. So let's see if that is a yes or a no statement. So the pounds of potato salad is this. They said round to the nearest whole number. So that means everything before that decimal is a whole number. What determines it is this 1. The 1 is found in 0 through 4, which means stay on the floor. So therefore, this is going to stay a 2. So did he round it to the nearest whole number, come to 2? Yes, he did. So this is a true statement. Now it said rounded to the nearest whole number. He bought 4 pounds of macaroni salad. So the macaroni salad is now what we're talking about, which is here. Said round to the nearest whole number again, which is a 4. So what determines it is that number after. That 2 is what you bring into here. So the 2 is found in 0 through 4, which tells that 4 to stay. So therefore, this is also a true statement. Next, rounded to the nearest tenth, Raphael bought 2 1/10 pounds of potatoes. So we will see if that is true. Again, we're only talking about the potato salad. So that was this number. We said round to the nearest tenth, which is this number right here. So what determines it is this 5. And 5 is found through 5 through 9, which says to go up. So therefore, it's going to tell this 1 to go up to up 1 more, which to a 2. So it would be actually 2 2/10. So was this true? No, it was not. So this is not a true statement. All right, next it says the 4 highest scores on a floor exercise at the gymnastics meet is this. Choose the number that makes the statement true. So it wants first the lowest of the 4 scores. So the lowest of the 4 scores, you should be lining up the decimals, which they did not do that great of lining up the decimals. So I am going to rewrite it over here so that everything is lined up and it makes more sense to me. So the lowest score is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to put in zeros here to make it more sense here. The ones place does not tell me what is the lowest. However, the tenths do. They're all different. So what is the lowest between a 6, a 2, a 3, and a 5? It is your 2. So therefore, the lowest score of these is the one with the 2 and the tenths. All right, then it says the highest of these 4 scores are what? So now, again, these are all a tie, so the tiebreaker is always the tenths. Now we're looking for the highest. Well, the highest one out of these 4 is the 6, so therefore that is the one that you will have. All right, next it says Michelle records the value of €1 in US dollars each day for a social studies project. And it says the table shows the data that she recorded so far. So here they are. It says on which 2 days was the value of €1 the same when rounded to the nearest hundredth of a dollar. So we are going to be rounding to the hundredths here. Again, the hundredths, if you find your ones, it is this number right here. You have to find your ones. So we're going to be rounding to the nearest hundredth. So the 1 here, when rounded to the nearest hundredth, the 8 is going to determine it. The 8 is going to say it goes up. So that underlying digit will now go up to a 5. So we would round that to 1 45/100. Here, the 3 is going to determine whether it goes up or stays the same. The 3 is in 0 through 4, so it's going to say stay the same. So this will be 1 44/100. Next, the 5 is in the hundredths, so the 2 determines it. The 2 is found in 0 through 4, which tells it to stay. So therefore, this is going to be 1 and 45 hundredths. And then this one, the one that's in the hundreds is the 5. The 8 determines it. The 8 is found in 5 through 9, which tells it to go up one more to a 6. So this is going to be rounded to 1 and 46 hundredths. So therefore, which two were the same? So which 2 days were the same? So it was Monday and Wednesday were the same. All right, so now the next part is Miguel has $20. He spends $7.25 on a movie ticket, $3.95 on snacks, and $1.75 for bus fare each way. Each way, that means going there and back. So keep that in mind. How much money does Miguel now have left? All right, so he only has $20. So that is what he starts off with. But then you're going to subtract off all the stuff that he bought. So in other words, instead of just going and subtracting this and then taking that number and subtracting this and then to taking that number and subtracting off the fare, the bus fare, what I would do is I would first add up everything that he bought. So he bought a movie ticket plus $3.95 snack plus $1.75 each way. So that's actually going there and back. So I'm going to add up all of this. And then once I figure out what this comes to, then I'm going to subtract it from the money that I have left. Subtract it from $20, and then that's going to tell me how much change I should have left. So I'm going to add up all of this by making sure the decimals are aligned. Then 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, that is 10, and that's 20. So I'm going to put a 0, carry my 2. Now this is 14 plus 11 plus 2. So if you want to do that, you can do that up here. 14 plus 11 plus 2. You can always, combine them, make it a little bit easier. This would be 4 plus 3 is 7, and then 2. So this would be 27. So I'm going to put a 7 down, and I'm going to carry my 2. This is 10 plus 2 plus 2. That is 14. So actually it was $14.70 worth of stuff that he had bought. So now I'm going to take my $20 and then I'm going to subtract off the $14.70. Make sure you line up the decimals. Bring down the decimal. 0 minus 0 is 0. Can I have 0 and take away 7? No, I cannot, so I have to borrow, but I don't have anything from here, so I have to come all the way over here. This now becomes a 10. Then, can you give up 1? Yes, this will now be a 10. So 10 minus 7 is 3, and 9 minus 4 is 5. So therefore, this is $5.30. All right, next, it says Yolanda's sunflower plant was 64 and 3/4 centimeters tall in July. During August, the plant grew 18 and 2/10 centimeters. So it grew. So if it grows, then that means it's going to get bigger. So therefore, we should be adding to figure out how much it grew. But this part A, says to estimate, which we are not going to do. So I'm going to take that out. But now I'm going to come down here. What is the exact height? So that is the part that we're going to worry about. And then the second part I'm going to cross out because it says the estimate again. So what is the exact height of this flower? In order to find that, I'm going to have to add up both of these numbers. Make sure you line up the decimals again. This has a placeholder. Now we can add. Bring down your decimal. 4 plus 0 is 4. 3 plus 2 is 5. This is 12. Carry your 1. And then 8. So be 82 and 45 hundredths. Oh, sorry, 54 hundredths centimeters. That is your answer to the exact amount. Okay, then we are on our very last page. So I'm going to go over this, and then this is going to be the end of the test review. All right, so this one says Oscar ran 100-yard dash in 12 and 4100 seconds. Josiah ran a 100-yard dash in 11 and 8500 seconds. How many seconds faster was Josiah than Oscar? So, guys, keep in mind that when it comes to time, when you're racing, 11 seconds versus 12 seconds, the one who is faster is the smaller number, the one who did it in 11 seconds. So I know it gets a little confusing. So that's why it is faster. It wants to know how much faster. So in order to figure out that, you are going to have to find the difference between these two numbers. And how you find the difference is you subtract. So I'm lining up the decimals here. That is a 1. So bring down your decimal. Can I have 1 and take away 5? No, I cannot. So I'm going to come over and borrow. This is now going to become 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. 3 minus 8. You cannot have 3 and take away 8, so you have to come over and borrow. This is now 13 minus 8, which is 5. And then 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 minus 1 is 0 again. So therefore, this is a difference of 56 hundredths of a second. All right, next it says, in this number, the value of the digit 2 is worth 2 what? So if you find the ones place, again, put a 1 under the ones, which is always the one before the decimal, add on zeros underneath. The 2 is in the hundredths. So therefore, the 2 is worth hundredths. And then the 5 is worth, so now I'm just going to add on a 0. The 5 is saying it's in the thousandths. So therefore, the 5 is worth 5 thousandths. All right, so next it says Troy and Lizetta are solving a following word problem. Rosalie's cat weighs 9 and 8/10 pounds, and her dog weighs 25 and 4/10 pounds. What is the weight of both animals combined? So we're going to combine them. That means we are going to be adding them. So Troy set up his problem like this, and Lizetta sets up her problem like this. Who is correct? And explain your answer and solve the problem. So they want to know which one set it up properly. Well, they said that Troy set it up like this, and Lizetta set it up like this. And who set it up properly? Well, technically speaking, when it comes to something like this, can you flip these around when it comes to addition and still get the exact same answer? So if I did this, I would bring down my decimal. This would be 12. This would carry. That is 10 plus 5 is 15, carry your 1. And this is 3. That's 35 and 2/10. And then here, this would be 12, carry your 1. This is 6 plus 9, which is 15, carry your 1, and this is a 3. So here, look at what happened. They are both getting the same answer. Because of the commutative property allows you to switch up the numbers, and you're still going to get the same answer. So therefore, who is correct? They both are. Both. Because the commutative property allows you to switch the order of the numbers. in addition. And then they said to solve the problem. Well, because it says explain your answer and solve the problem. Well, we just solved it. It is going to be 35 2/10 pounds. And that is your answer. All right, now this one says 84 hundredths is 10 times as much as blank. And then it's going to actually say the other thing. And then it's saying 84 hundredths is a tenth of what? So they're actually saying two different things. So that is why I wrote it like this, because I think it's so much easier this way. So here they gave us the answer. In order to find out the missing number, I actually have to do the opposite to find the factor. So I have to work backwards on these. So therefore, instead of timesing by 10, I'm going to do the opposite. Opposite of multiplying by 10 is actually dividing by 10. And remember, this is not just a fraction bar, but a division sign. So now I'm going to find a tenth of this, which means I'm going to make it smaller by a place. Remember, when you're making it smaller, if you push it in, you're actually making that number bigger. So in order to make it smaller, I got to push it to the left. So actually, if I do that, this is now going to be my decimal. So therefore, my answer would have been this top one. Here, again, I need to work backwards to find the answer to this. So therefore, I am going to do the opposite. And this is again saying dividing by 10. The opposite of dividing by 10 is multiplying by 10. And when I'm multiplying, I need to make it bigger. So if I push it this way, I'm actually making that number smaller. So to make it bigger by one place, I'm going to be pushing it in, and it will now be 8 4/10. So that is how you do those. Right, and that is how you do that. And then you're just going to do those type of questions on your chapter 3 test. It's just going to change up the numbers and that kind of stuff, but it's still the same setup. And you're still going to like cross out the ones that are like this, and I'll explain that more later. So I'm just letting you know that is what you will be doing. All right, I will see you guys next time. Bye.